Est-ce que vous avez envie de vomir dans l'espace?
How do you feel when the launcher takes off?
Vous avez voulu être astronaute?
Est-ce qu'il se passe quelque chose de spécial pendant la traversée de l'atmosphère?
Those are not emotional questions, they're physical emotion questions, I would say. How does it feel during launch? Have you always wanted to be an astronaut? The standard question, in a way.
Have you been sick in space?
Have you been sick in space? Are you and actually a question not posed here, but interesting also today is how is the return? Because we have different ways to return today with the shuttle and with the Soyuz, and how is this different on your body, and how is the short duration versus long duration flight rehabilitation?
Shall we start, Mike?
Well, I'll start with your last question about short versus long. It's pretty big. You know, they say anecdotally that it takes about a day for day, so every day you spend in space, it takes about another day on Earth after you're finished to acclimate totally to the new environment. I don't know if that's exactly true, but it seems pretty accurate. I had 3 short duration missions, and I think one thing is true for everybody, and that is that with each mission you feel better not only when you get into space, but also when you come back. However, there are great differences between individuals. Some people feel lousy when they get into space, others feel great, and it may be that the person who feels lousy when they get into space, when they come back to Earth, they feel fine. Or some people feel fine all the time, and some people, unfortunately, feel lousy all the time. Between the short duration experiences, which I would say qualitatively after about a day or so, the vestibular symptoms are gone, and after, say, 10 days to 2 weeks, most of the sensations that things feel heavy, those have disappeared. Compared to long duration, 7 months, took probably about a week for the vestibular systems to completely disappear, and months to feel like it was the same when I get up out of a chair. So I don't know, what yardstick to apply to different people, but I would assume that the template is always the same, and that is that it gets easier each time, and that it's harder the longer you're in space.
Yeah, you came back about a year ago from 7 months, and you're still feeling the weight on the knees and.
Well, that just could be because I'm 7 months older.
And how about for you, Sergei, who did that several times more than 6 months?
6 times?
Yeah, 6 times total, and 2 short duration flights.
Does it ever get easier? Does it ever get better?
Actually, I compare my first and second flight. My second flight was almost twice longer than my first flight. First flight was about 5 months, and second was a little more than 10. Actually, I didn't feel big difference, maybe because I already have experience. When you know what to expect, when you know even how to exercise in space to get yourself ready to meet gravity again, it helps a little bit. So the longer flight, the longer it takes to recover back, but experience helps.
Jean-Francois, you are managing the Airbus parabolic flight from Bordeaux. So you are surrounded by people who are sick in general. Could you explain a little bit about this motion sickness in space?
Less than 10% are taking the bag out of their pocket. So because we suggest very strongly to them to take the pills that help to prevent motion sickness. But as far as space flight, I think during launch there is definitely a sense of power. I mean, you feel power. It's the engines of the space shuttle are developing about 50 gigawatts at the maximum. About 2 minutes after liftoff, you could feed the whole France in electricity if you could convert in electricity at that time. But we are focusing on the systems. If you are on the flight deck, the obsession is you have to be spring-loaded, like in the simulator for any malfunction, and we are trained like that. We are trained to expect a malfunction. So usually we are quite efficient at that time. Once in space, I mean, flying in weightlessness is extraordinary. I mean, it's a feeling that is maybe disturbing at the beginning, but at the end of the mission, you want to take weightlessness with you. I mean, when we are back home and we are stuck on the surface or on the floor, we are frustrated that we cannot use the walls or the ceilings to put furniture or to use. I mean, in space, we use weightlessness. At the end, it's very useful. And the view of the Earth is also, I think, the most, the strongest memory I have of my space flight. Also, weightlessness, working in a team, the challenge of the work. I envy a lot Sergei. Many cosmonauts who have flown long duration flights, you can show them any picture of anywhere on Earth. They tell you where it is and what's the name. And that's my dream, to fly long enough that I know the Earth by heart. You know, my first flight was upside down the whole time, and we took 8,000 pictures. I think I know some, but I would have liked to fly longer to learn my planet by heart. But the challenge is, the technical challenge is something else. Yeah.
And I will agree with Jean-Francois, especially after long duration flight, you really want to take weightlessness with you on the ground because gravity feels really heavy.
Leo, when we saw the movie a bit earlier with Mizoha, I'm sure everyone was impressed by the length. Is that something that is the reality when you try to cross the space station all over? And does that give you some kind of a sickness? Or can you tell us a bit how you discover space station actually?
It was a very nice surprise when we get into the space station. First, as you mentioned, because it's so big, and when we arrived, the Note 2 had just been added, and after having been a couple of days in the shuttle with 7 crew members, all of a sudden you are in this big station, and it takes maybe 1 minute to go from one side to the other. And now we have added other modules on the Note 2, so you have some sides also where you can go. You can hide in the station, actually. I remember a couple of times I was looking for Yuri Manenchenko, who was my crewmate, and I couldn't find him. So, of course, it could have certainly been more, but the station is wonderful. It's very big and it's very nice also.